Dr. Myron McCoy is no stranger to Chicago. He received his Master of Divinity degree from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston and served the Northern Illinois Conference of the United Methodist Church as pastor of St. Mark Church in Chicago and as district superintendent of the Chicago Southern District. Now, after 10 years as president of St. Paul's School of Theology in Kansas City, he's returned to the Windy City as senior pastor of the historic First United Methodist Church, Chicago Temple. Welcome, Dr. McCoy. We also welcome a member of Chicago Temple's youth group. Isabel Alonzo is a 17-year-old senior at Whitney Young High School. Well, Dr. McCoy, this is not your first time on Different Drummers, so welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And are you excited to be back in Chicago? Tell us a little bit about your journey from Chicago to Kansas City at St. Paul's and back home.
Well, it was an interesting time. I was challenged to go to Kansas City at a time in which, what should I say, the seminary was, seminaries all through the country are going through changes, and so we had a chance to relocate a seminary, to start a second campus, and to create greater diversity within the seminary community there.
So what enticed you to come back to Chicago and specifically to the Chicago Temple? What is it about that church and its mission and ministry?
Well, certainly one of the things that I could see from work in the seminary, that churches were in a slow decline. And so I wanted to get back into the action, and knew that seminaries couldn't survive without members, and I needed to get back to where members were. And the Chicago Temple offered an opportunity for me to utilize all the gifts and skills gathered along the way to work in an environment in which a diverse group of people were together. And at this juncture of my life, I was interested in a place where it represented all of God's kingdom.
And what issues are you looking forward to tackling, we should say?
I guess what I'm looking to tackle is the silence of, great silence of the church following after 9/11 in terms of the church's role in social action ministries. I'm interested in evangelism. How do we respond to a changing world in which other folks have found a way to pick up members and we haven't?
Isabel, tell us about yourself. How long have you been a member at the Chicago Temple?
Well, my mother was a member at the church. I was born baptized, and last year I was confirmed as a member of the Methodist Church.
Tell us about your involvement at the church and what the youth group is doing.
I am part of the youth group. For the past 2 summers, I have been a church intern at the office. I have been helping around in the office. The youth group, it's still pretty new. We're still thinking of things to do around the city, but when we have plans, we will do them.
Yeah. So you want to get involved and kind of put your faith into action?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Why would that be important to you?
It would be important to me because the church has taught me that everyone is different, but we all still need to be treated equally, no matter race, gender.
Talk to us about how the church reaches today's youth. You've got wonderful people like Isabel and other young people in the church. How do you reach them? How do you keep them involved in the life of the church?
Well, one of the things, and certainly the First United Methodist Church Chicago Temple is unusual in terms of where the members come from. And so I think in this day and age, we're probably more primed and ready to respond to youth in a new way than perhaps ever before. And as I think about youth today, they're very much wired. And so I think they will push us to connect with them in ways, technology-wise, through social media that will be necessary for us to connect with them. With our congregation, with members living as far as south suburbs, Palatine, Evanston, we can't expect everybody to come back downtown, so we'll have to figure a way with our youth ministry to be connected with them. And I think they'll help us in teaching us how to do that. I think, you know, given the downtown, as we look toward the future, there will be more younger families moving into the downtown area. And so we'll have to think of creative ways to bring in scouts, not so much for the persons like Isabel who have lived away, but in the future, there will be a need for young people to have ministries right there in the setting of the community.
Reverend McCoy, who influenced you theologically?
Everyone in my generation is certainly influenced by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and there's still a need for us to be engaged where we take the church out of the church into the community, and see that our concerns are more than just the local church, but the communities of which we are part, and a concern that the freedom and the love of God is shared with all persons.
You have 3 sons. Tell us about your sons.
One is 31, and I have twins that are 27. My oldest son, he is involved as actually as an organist in one church, one of his many different jobs. He's kind of eclectic. He has his day job, he has his church job, and so he plays the organ, and to balance himself he plays jazz drums too. And so sometimes he does a little both at church. One of my twins, he's in Moore, Oklahoma, where he's involved in advertising and communications. He is active at, both of them, by the way, are at United Methodist churches. My third son is a new father. He's the only one married at this time. He is attending with his wife a Baptist church, but he feels a little bit confined there, and so I won't be surprised if they do not come back to United Methodist Church.
Well, Isabel, let's look into the future for you a little bit. You're a senior at Whitney Young. What's next for you?
I am currently doing college applications. I would like to stay here at UIC and go into the engineering program. While I'm at the engineering program at UIC, I would like to be able to cross-apply to another college here, Harold Washington College, and hopefully get a major in Japanese.
How do you think about God, and how does God work in your life?
God works in various ways in my life. Whenever I see something good happen, I think, oh, that's God's doing. And I feel like everything that I do, all the things that I hope are doing good to the rest of the community, I think that God is steering me in the right direction.
It's wonderful. So Isabel is a wonderful example of a young person who's involved in the church and is volunteering in the church. Are you concerned about the young people that we're not reaching, that aren't coming to church and aren't participating in faith communities?
One of the statistics I've seen is pretty shocking, suggests that in Isabel's generation and those that come after, we're probably only getting 4%. 4% of the young people in church. And so what that says to me is that we have to get busy. Busy in terms of making ourselves more user-friendly to younger families, and even connecting more with college students who will, and young adults who will increasingly have younger ones coming along the way to get them connected with the life of the church. If they're only 4% coming to church, we're going to reach the point where many future folks who would be a part of a youth group would never have seen the inside of a church.
Thank you, Dr. McCoy, for joining us and sharing your vision with us, and thank you, Isabel. I'm Jan Ingmeyer for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.